Alright, just gonna go for a quick little drive to lunch, nothing too crazy.
Alright, you ready?
For a quick little quiet drive to lunch?
Hey, left 3 tightens into right 4 over crest.
It's a school zone.
Caution, mailbox outside, don't cut.
There's a neighbor waving at us. Relax.
Okay, hairpin right, loose surface, maybe wildlife.
This is where we're having lunch.
All right, time, 3 minutes, 12 seconds, clean run.
Clean lunch run.
Hey, rally mode always on.
Welcome to the driver's line. I'm Greg.
And I'm Jordan.
And this is the 2025 Subaru WRX TS.
Where rally mode's always on.
All right, it's road test time. As we said, this week we have the 2025 Subaru WRX TS with us, and a huge thanks to Subaru for lending us this little rally-inspired beastie.
That's right. If you like car reviews, news, and shenanigans like our European road trip, smash that like button and subscribe for more automotive action. Now, let's see what this WRX TS can do.
All right, so let's kick this thing off with the exterior of this WRX TS, which in the ceramic bright paint, it is definitely leaning into those Stormtrooper vibes with the black cladding everywhere.
Absolutely, yeah, it definitely has that look, but good thing for us is this definitely has better aim than those guys, especially on the back roads.
True enough, true enough. The WRX has always had a bit of an aggressive look, and this TS just takes it up maybe half a notch, staying away from going full boy racer with a giant wing on the back.
Yeah, I mean, it's very tastefully done. Getting the TS package adds black mirror caps. It has a black lip spoiler on the back trunk there, as well as a black shark fin antenna. So it really sets it off against this white paint for sure. But in addition to that, you get some really nice looking 19-inch satin gray wheels, and behind those are some gold painted Brembos.
Wow, yes. Unfortunately Subaru didn't do away with all of that black cladding around the wheel wells, and I have to say it really has not grown on me since this WRX generation was unveiled back in, I think, 2022. Yeah,
I mean, I think it would have been a nice differentiator once you get the TS package to kind of clean up the look a little bit, especially since it's kind of track focused, right? But because it's not really that different in many other ways, we do have the same 183.8 inch length, 71.9 inch width, and 57.7 inch height. All that with 5.4 inches of ground clearance.
Yeah, and the ceramic wood of our tester here is nice and crisp in person and does offer a nice contrast to all of that black cladding all over the place. But, for the best thing is that Subaru offers legitimate colors on this thing, even if our tester isn't one.
Yeah, that's right. So for 2025, you can get, of course, the color to get. Typically, right, with Subarus is that World Rally Blue Pearl. In addition to that, you can get Ignition Red, Sapphire Blue Pearl, or for only $395, the awesome Galaxy Purple Pearl.
That Galaxy Purple is outstanding. We got to see it in person at the New York Auto Show and absolutely fell in love with it there, and that 100% would be my choice on the WRX TS.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a great color. I mean, overall, this car doesn't really scream like, look at me, like the previous WRXs. I think it's kind of tastefully done, but it's different enough.
Yeah, it's got that layer of maturity, like, went to finishing school, but, still throws back a monster every day.
Exactly. So there's a lot to like here. I mean, with the styling of the WRX, but is there anything you don't like about it?
Yeah, I touched on it already. I don't like that plastic cladding. That would have been a really nice differentiator to offer that painted on the TS since we're here, the top of the line, top trim. And those undersized headlights also bother me a lot. It looks like Sid from Ice Age.
Well, I will say, I'm not going to be as harsh about the headlights. I actually think, honestly, the front end of this is the best looking part of the car. The height of it from the side is just very, very intimidating. It's very tall. And the back, I think, is just kind of too far pinched in. It would just be nice for them to get like the hatchback styling back. That would be awesome.
Yeah, hatchback and an actual SDI would be nice, but, beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and move to the inside of this WRX TS. And honestly, this interior feels like Subaru is finally realizing that WRX buyers might have grown up a little bit.
Right? Yeah, it's got that kind of rally car heart vibe, but now it feels a bit more focused, a bit more upscale. Well, the first thing that really grabs you is these seats, literally and figuratively. I mean, the color, the black ultra suede, and they're just so nicely designed. They're kind of really rally feel, but kind of mature.
Yeah, these seats aren't just for show either. They're Recaros, right? They do a great job of keeping you planted, but are still manageable for daily drives. Both front seats get heated elements as well, and the driver's seat is powered 8-way.
That's awesome. And in addition to that, in terms of styling, you get blue theme everywhere. So there's blue stitching on the dash, there's blue door trim, there's even blue leather down the center console here. So it's just walking that line between too much, but I think it's really well done.
I do too. I think it really pops for this interior, and materials aren't exceptional, but they're not overly plasticky either. You're not going to mistake this thing for a luxury car, but it's not a penalty box either.
No, not at all. And in terms of tech, I mean, you do have this big 11.6-inch vertical touchscreen, just like in the Outback XT we recently reviewed. But along with that, you do have the Subaru multimedia system. So there are some, likes with this, because this is a really nice big screen, but it is kind of laggy. So there's some issues with that, right?
Yeah, for sure. Unfortunately, the functionality is really similar to that Outback that we just reviewed, which is to say super laggy, not intuitive whatsoever.
It's true, but I will say what's nice about the TS is it comes with a 12.3-inch configurable digital gauge cluster in front of you, and I think it looks fantastic.
It really does, and it's got the STI logo on it to remind you that you're not an STI, but the TS also comes standard with a dual zone climate control, which is nice. It's got a Harman Kardon sound system, which sounds okay, but we also have 98.9 cubic feet in this interior too, which is to say it's actually pretty spacious inside.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you can definitely appropriate for families. You can get car seats back there, so if you want a fun daily driver, but an interior that's suitable for a family, I mean, this is a great pick.
Absolutely. So, are some things that you didn't like about this interior?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with Subaru, as always, unfortunately, is this infotainment system in the center.
It's so bad.
It needs work, and it's been the same way for years now, so it's surprising that they haven't fixed it yet. But if there's any indication from that cluster there, I mean, maybe there's hope in the future, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The cluster is fantastic. It really is. It's nice and configurable, but this infotainment is just
it's not
pretty bad. We also have a pretty small back seat. It's only 36.5 inches of legroom back there. So, growing families might not see that to have enough space, but if you're not a family person, this car could suit you really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, it might be tight in there for if you're a pretty big family, but what's definitely going to be tight for most people is that trunk. It's only 12.4 cubic feet, which is pretty small for the class, honestly. I'm not sure that would really be a great pick there.
Yeah, another reason to make a WRX or STI hatchback.
Yes, we want the hatchback.
All right, well, it's time for you to get behind the wheel of this WRX TS, so let's see if we can find a spot to pull off and swap seats.
Sound good. Okay, so now we get into the part that really matters to WRX fans, power.
Damn right, let's go.
So some things never change here, but we still have a turbocharged flat 4, the same 2.4 liters from the base WRX, making 271 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque.
Yeah, we hit that peak torque early, just over 2,000 RPM, so it has that low-end punch. You really need to pull out of corners or when dropping into gear.
Yeah, I mean, it feels smoother than the old FA20, less lag, it's pretty responsive, and there's more refinement.
Yeah, it's not a rocket ship, but it pulls hard once it hits that boost.
Yeah.
0 to 60 is in the low 5s if you abuse the car. And you'll trip the lights in the quarter about 14.1 at 98 if you hit every shift perfectly in this gearbox with pretty long throws.
Yeah, but I mean, speaking of the shifts, right, the 6-speed manual is the only gearbox available in the TS trim, so that's pretty nice. It's definitely performance oriented. So thanks to Subaru for keeping that god-awful CVT out of this trim.
long throws, but you know, it does have a great mechanical feel with really good positive engagement. You know, the clutch is super light but responsive, so it's nice to modulate it and makes the car have that really nice connected feel.
Yeah, and speaking of connecting, as all Subarus have, we have the Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive system in this model, which is a key part of that WRX formula.
That's right. You know, it gives you confidence in all weather, give you that planted feel when you need to put the power down. I'm not waiting on a computer to sort it out and decide where it's going to send that power. It's mechanical, it's Subaru.
So where the TS branding really starts to earn its keep is the handling department. This car isn't really much about power so much as control.
Exactly. You know, Subaru went all in on the chassis on this thing. It's got the adaptive dampers off the GT, tuned by the gearheads at STI, and they made a noticeable difference here.
Yeah, I mean, right now we've got it in sport mode for subscribe, and it tightens up really nicely. I mean, the body roll is kept in check in sport mode, and you get road feel without all that harshness.
Yeah, and you can, you know, choose between a bunch of different driving modes as well. You've got comfort, normal, sport, and sport plus as well. And you've got the individual option as well with that drive mode select button. So that tweaks the steering weight, it tweaks the throttle response, and the behavior of this symmetrical all-wheel drive.
And the grip is so legit. The TS pulls 0.96 Gs on the skid pad, which puts it right among some pretty stiff competition, like the GR Corolla and the Civic Type R.
Yeah, you know, and that's thanks in part to these really wide Bridgestones. We've got 245 section width tires here and a retuned steering rack. That really helps it get the bite into these corners.
Yeah, I mean, and braking is another place where the TS really earns its stripes. We've got Brembo brakes, 6-piston calipers up front, 4 pistons out in the rear, and all cross-drilled.
Yeah, that is some serious stopping power, and they're carried forward from the previous WRX TR, but now they're finishing that beautiful gold color. Stops from 60 and 105 feet.
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to performance and handling, bottom line is the TS feels more planted, it's more precise, and it's way more dialed in than your standard WRX.
Absolutely. So, what don't you like about the performance of this WRX TS?
Well, you know, for performance trim, and I know it's not all about power, but I do feel like we could use some more in this one, especially for the price that you're paying.
Yeah, you know, we've got a slower acceleration than the base WRX, which isn't great. So we've got some additional rotational mass in those fancy wheels that we have here on the TS. They're not forged. I tried to look for that everywhere on the site, on the press release. Subaru doesn't call it out, so they're clearly not forged. So they've added a bit of weight on each corner. The brakes probably add a little bit of weight too with those bigger brakes too. So we just need more power to turn a lot of that extra hardware and make this, you know, a little bit more elevated than the base WRX.
Yeah, I mean, the chassis, the system, how it's set up can handle a lot more. We wish it would have more.
Absolutely. All right, so now it's time for Would You Rather.
That's right. We're going to pit this car against 3 of its competitors and say which one we would rather have.
That's right. So, you know, the Subaru WRX TS is a fancy WRX with an STI level price. Our tester rings the register at about $48,000, but let's see if we can find a better option. So, first up is our recent review, the Hyundai Elantra N. So starts at $35,000, 276 horsepower, 5 seconds to 60, about 13.7 at 104 through the quarter, and you can get it with a manual or a DCT. Which one would you rather have?
I gotta say, this is a pretty easy pick for me. For $10,000 less and you still get a manual, I'm going with the Elantra N.
Yeah, same. More than, frankly, like it's almost $13,000 because you can actually get that Elantra N at about 35 grand, which is what a performance bargain. Interior, this is much nicer, but it's not, you know, $10,000 to like $15,000 nicer. Not even close.
And that's pretty fun and engaging too.
Yeah, for sure. So next up is, you know, one that is probably on paper a really good competitor to this. So it's all-wheel drive, you know, turbo. Talking about the Audi S3, so 49 grand starting, which is not far off where this is. 328 horsepower, 4.4 seconds to 60, 12.8 seconds through the quarter with that DSG. Of course, all-wheel drive as well. Which one would you rather have?
Well, I gotta say, I love the engine in the S3, and the all-wheel drive system, although it's not as competent as this one, I think it's still pretty good. But really what sets it over the mark, that DSG is fantastic. Even though it doesn't come with a manual, I'm going with the S3.
Yeah, same. I've actually already made this decision with a previous purchase because I used to have an S3. I test drove the STI at the time and chose the S3 over the STI, which was even a higher performance level than this thing. So that S3 is just so smooth and so quick. They do a wonderful job. The fact that you can get one for only about $1,000 more than this really just makes that seem like a value, which is hard to say for an Audi, but it's
especially an S Audi.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not just an A3, it's an S3. All right, well, not a huge surprise given your love for the Vag and the fact that I've already owned one, but let's see if we can overcome a bit of an oddball. So next up, we've got the Mini John Cooper Works Clubman all four. So starts at 46 grand, so right in spitting distance of this thing. 301 horsepower, 4.6 seconds to 60, so it's a little bit quicker. 13.6 through the quarter, and it's also all-wheel drive.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good pick. It's very quirky, and it's fun. I appreciate the body setup of it, the hatchback. Hey, we like that. But Mini scares me in terms of reliability. And, you know, I like having a 6-speed in here, and the only reason I would give it up is for a dual clutch. You know, the Ace and 8-speed in there is kind of laggy, I think. So I'm going with this one.
Yeah, this is kind of a boring would you rather, because I'm going to make the same choice as well. So we are literally choosing the same vehicle because I'm going to go with this as well. This is a lot more fun to me than the Mini John Cooper Works. For sure. The manual does make a big difference. You lose that little bit of utility in this versus the John Cooper Works, but I think this makes it up for it in a lot in that fun factor, right? So it's going to be a lot more fun behind the wheel. So, all right, guys. Well, there you have it, folks. So now it's time to find a spot to pull off for our final thoughts. All right, so our time with the Subaru WRX TX is now at an end, and we have pulled off for our final thoughts to discuss some of the things we didn't like and some of the things we do love about this Subaru WRX TS. So first off, one of the things that we absolutely love is the handling and performance of this thing. It is absolutely fantastic the way it drives. It's extremely nimble, has great handling, has a lot of customization as well when you go into some of those menus with your drive modes. Yeah, I think having that TS package has done a lot in terms of updating the handling performance. But on top of that, it's a Subaru, and it comes with symmetrical all-wheel drive, which is not something a ton of its competitors have. So I think it's a really standout feature. It really is. And another standout feature is the interior of this thing. Is actually really well done, as long as you don't look at the infotainment. The seats are really nice, hug you in all the right places, and you have a lot of the interesting blue design with our tester here. Yeah, it's fantastic updates inside. Another kind of bragging fact is that Subaru offers a manual transmission. This is something that is disappearing off the market, even in enthusiast vehicles, but here Subaru has maintained it, and full respect to them, especially in a performance trim. That's the only transmission you can get, and it's a good one. Absolutely. So that is a wonderful inclusion from Subaru, so we definitely applaud them for that. One thing that we're not as keen on about that manual transmission is it has really long throws. For those of us who are used to really short throw shifters and Miatas and Porsches and things like that, you feel like you're really rowing that hard, and it takes some time to, you know, configure your own internal timing to go ahead and get those shifts right. That's true. That's true. Another thing that's kind of bothering us, honestly, is still the styling on this model. When it came out, we were not really sold on it, and to be honest, I'm not sure it's aged all that well, but yeah, you know, I beat this dead horse a few times already during our course of the review here, but this cladding, I mean, come on, Subaru, we need to go ahead and get rid of it. Let's go ahead and do something different, especially for a top trim like this TS. Yeah, the TS deserves something special. It's track focused. Give it something different on the outside to separate it, because otherwise it kind of looks like any other WRX, honestly. Yeah, you know, the WRX TS does, you know, sharpen the edges of the standard WRX, but when you're priced against the Civic Type R, when you're priced against that GR Corolla, it's not enough. You need, in addition to sharpness, you need bite too. And even though Subaru is adamant that they're not going to go ahead and give us that STI that we are all clamoring for, they need something that brings the level of the power to the level of the price with this TS. So they need to give us that STI, give it to us, make it happen, and maybe even do it with a hybrid. Use the hybrid to go ahead and future-proof this 2.4 liter turbo that you have under the hood. And on that fantastic revelation, it's time to end. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us on The Driver's Line. Hit that like button and subscribe for more car reviews, specials, and podcasts.
A special shout out to our partner Prestige Auto and North American Vehicle Services for fleet management, keeping us fueled up and on the road, enabling us to keep bringing great content to you.
Welcome to The Driver's Line. I'm Greg.
And I'm Jordan.
And this is the 2025 WRX TS.
I pulled my sunglasses off.
Oh.